Hey guys, today's episode is going to be a bit different, in part because I wanted to cleanse the palate and not focus solely on the immeasurable harm that the trans agenda is inflicting on our youth. No, instead, I'm going to talk about how I found myself on the right side of the aisle, my transition from the left to the right, when only 6 years ago I was a lunatic watching Rachel Maddow and screaming about Donald Trump on Twitter. Now, of course, I can't and won't simply leave the trans issue alone. However much I wish it would leave us alone for a day. We could call it a day of trans invisibility, but of course, that would only upset them and it would make the rest of us uneasy at best, not knowing exactly what they were thinking and doing. The trans agenda is everywhere. It's spilling from the most unsuspecting classrooms to the highest levels of government and always trying.
Yes. I'm with you even now.
No, what?
Can you sense it? Stop it!
You're watching Doublespeak. So I mentioned at the top of this episode that I'd be discussing my transition from the left to the right. Here is a very real example. Okay, story time. A friend posts to Facebook. Her name is Liz, and she says that all white men are rapists. She hates them, and she hates you by proxy. Unless you're a woman, then thank you for watching my channel. Now, you reply, well, I guess technically anyone's capable of anything, but this feels a little accusatory and mean-spirited. I'm not one of those guys. And she retorts with venom that you don't know her experience, and that when you say you're not like that, it only further proves that you're misogynistic and that you're part of the problem. Now, this line of dialogue and the ensuing hopelessness that it brings can be applied to every facet of woke ideology. The point of this exercise, every time, is to beat you into submission. And it results in one of three things. Either A, you intake the information, decide you must be wrong, you don't believe it necessarily, but you also assume that your disbelief is the result of this failure on your part. This results in the man with pink hair and 3 cats. Here's B. You hear what was said, you're horrified that you've been accused of such a horrible thing. You delete the comment and message the woman apologizing. You never feel safe speaking like that again. And this results in the man who is withdrawn from politics. His son is now trans and he's fine with that. And then there's C, the only path that can ever lead towards salvation and a personal reinvention and a sudden clarity necessary to blossom into the conservative that you are. You intake the accusation, you consider it for a moment, and you're outraged at the suggestion that you're the problem when you've watched online as this woman has made it her full-time job writing about her victimhood, day in, day out, accusing everyone in her orbit of not contributing sufficiently to the cause. You write a comment, speaking your mind, you unfriend her, and you make a point not to block her, because blocking her would negate the process. It would prevent her from seeing what you wrote. Now, nobody who's told that they're dangerous because of their race or gender is immediately enlightened. Much like alcoholism, nobody drinks less today than they did when they first started. Because, of course, there was a time in your life where you'd never had a drink in the first place. Nobody intrinsically believes that white privilege and systemic racism are real. Kids look around at a black president, their favorite musicians, and their math teacher. It seems to them like we're on a pretty even keel. No, instead, it's something that has to be taught. And just like Liz accusing you of violent male dominance and misogyny, again, the three scenarios present themselves: accusation, confusion, and obedience. Threats of societal shunning and humiliation and excommunication and the loss of friends on social media. And those who contribute to it dutifully go along with it because they're young and they want to be a part of something big. When Obama was elected, I shouted, "It's about time." And I meant it. Racism was over. Life was pretty great. It was work and movies and family. It's hard to think of something that bothered me politically. This wild division was ignited about the time Trump ran for office. Now, I wasn't subscribed to John Oliver at the time. I didn't have HBO, but I was pummeled with his stuff from day one.
Because the website PolitiFact checked 77 of his statements and rated 76% of them as varying degrees of false.
And I bought it all, hook, line, and sink. I found Rachel Maddow, and I watched impatiently as she read over the Mueller report, knowing that Trump would be arrested any day now.
4 more years, so he can run out the statute of limitations on multiple felony charges.
How did I buy into any of that? The orange bastard. And of course, it hadn't come. The Mueller report was lackluster, and it was all because of that Bill Barr. Rachel Maddow was she was informing my belief systems minute by minute. It was this factory that took my empty hunger for activism and churned it in unquestionable anger. I looked at the people around me on Facebook. Some of them were wearing MAGA hats. This was unconscionable. So I made a post. If you support Trump, then you're a racist. You're a bigot. He doesn't respect women. He's corrupt, and you people should be on a list. I can't believe anyone, even me, I can't believe people are saying that. I can't believe it. Yep, I said that. All of that. And I got applause and friend requests from people I'd never met in my life. This was activism. Saying disparaging things about my friends and strangers I knew nothing about. I was very proud of myself. And then I found a guy who claimed to be a leftist, just like me. Check. He thought the war in Iraq was a crime. Check. He believed that Julian Assange and Edward Snowden were heroes. Check. He wanted money out of politics. Check. He didn't like how corporate donations influenced our elected officials. Check. He thought that Trump was a boob. He wasn't qualified to be president. Check. So far, this guy agrees with me, and I'm still safely inside my bubble. But then he said that Trump was being maligned by the left, that his qualifications, lackluster though they might be, didn't matter in this conversation. He said that the Mueller report was a witch hunt, that the left was power hungry, they were bought by corporations, and he shared receipts proving that in Congress, both the left and the right were voting as a unified party in favor of giant donations. The system was voting against our interests, both here and abroad, and whatever I thought of Trump, there was a fabricated narrative being sold. I didn't have to go scream or confront someone outside Congress. Everyone hated Trump so much that just saying on Facebook that Trump was being maligned was enough that people began associating me with the alt-right, which was weird to me. I realized all this time that I'd previously had zero nuance. Trump could be a buffoon or he could be the first honest guy in decades, but whatever he was, whoever he was, there was a movement to remove him at any cost, by any means, in the highest levels of our democratic institutions, and I saw it clearly for the first time. I was Jim Carrey being farted out of a rhinoceros.
Meeting secretly with sinister types?
Jimmy Dore threw me a life preserver, and I clung to it. It took me from being this pretentious, whiny, "Oh, you idiot," obnoxious sycophant, and it put my focus on the larger system. Free Assange, end the corruption. He'd have on right-wing personalities, and it seemed like I'd found some level ground where we could meet in the middle. And to this day, I still have a lot of love for Jimmy Dore. his relationships with Joe Rogan and Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, Tucker Carlson, their admirable nods to what could be seen as a plateau where both sides can agree, if only for a moment. Okay, let's talk about it. Jimmy Dore subscribes to Medicare for All, made famous by Bernie Sanders and that screaming two-faced viper AOC. Now, I think, like me, you're probably capable of listening to a person speak and taking one thing that's good and tossing another thing. The left call him the alt-right. Do you know why? Because he believes in free speech. That tells you everything. Now, he believes in Medicare for all. I guess I don't want to, but fine, let's talk about it. Do I think that it's ridiculous that a $3 bottle of saline ostensibly costs $100 in practice at the ER? Yes, that's absurd. They're raking their customers over the coals, and COVID blew the lid off of the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. Them, like Pfizer and CNN, the whole thing is corrupt. The whole thing is broken. It's wild. But are you going to take the entire medical infrastructure and give it to the government that just spent $1 trillion bailing out Ukraine, that's just begging, oh, I'm so hungry for World War III? I care about America. I care about my state. I care about my county. I care about my city. I care about my neighborhood. I care about my family. That's what I care about. The thought of giving our entire medical infrastructure to the government that can't get us a single thing right. I'm fine debating it, but right now we need to stop bailing out other countries. How many drug problems do we have in this country? How many kids aren't getting the education they need? Or when they do get the education, it's at the hands of trans people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. We got to fix like everything before we can talk about Medicare for all. But I'm always in a state of growth, and lately I'm more informed by community-focused people, such as Matt Walsh, Brett Cooper, the folks at PragerU. I'm positive I'm not done. I am fixed in my stance on woke indoctrination and mob mentalities. And so I find myself most useful speaking on the matters that I know with every fiber of my soul. So again, leftism is a cult. It is built on fear, intimidation, and lies, and nobody instinctively buys it. You have to be persuaded and threatened to adopt it. And that is how I found myself on the right. I'm different now. Hey guys, really glad you guys stuck around for this video. If you want to see more, find me on Rumble. Click one of these links. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. And you've been watching Doublespeak.